So picture this. You are sitting at your desk, you're staring at your screen, and you are just trying to navigate this massive, relentless wave of AI that is, actively transforming your workplace right
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is feeling it.
Right. I mean, it's early 2026. We are basically 18 months into this revolution. And naturally, you look to the experts for a map. You look to the world's top advisors, the big six consulting firms.
Yeah. The heavy hitter.
Exactly. We're talking McKinsey, BCG, Deloitte, Accenture, EY, and KPMG. You want their definitive playbooks so you can, well, figure out what to do with your team, your budget, and frankly, your own career.
Which, I mean, that is the logical move, right? These are the titans of consulting. Collectively, they advise Fortune 500 companies that represent literally trillions of dollars in market capitalization.
Yeah, it's massive.
They don't just observe modern corporate strategy, they actively architect it. When these firms publish a forecast, I mean, entire industries shift their budgets based on that.
But there is a massive catch. And it's really the core of our deep dive today. Based on some incredibly revealing research compiled by Jonathan H. Westover, we've discovered this crazy paradox at the heart of the transition.
And it really is a paradox.
Yeah, these six titans who are, supposed to have all the definitive answers, they fundamentally disagree on almost everything regarding AI's impact on the workforce.
The divergence in their forecasts is just, it's staggering. I mean, they agree on one solitary point, which is that AI is ultimately a human challenge, not just a technological one.
Okay, sure. Makes sense.
Right. But beyond that single point of consensus, their positions just scatter in completely different directions. So our mission for this deep dive isn't to, plant the referee and try to declare which firm is right.
Right. We're not picking a winner here.
Exactly. Instead, we are going to map out this landscape of expert disagreement. We want to expose the massive gap between what these firms are telling their clients to do versus what they are actually doing internally.
This is the most revealing part, honestly.
Definitely. And from all that, we'll extract an evidence-based survival guide for you and your organization.
Okay, let's unpack this because the scale of this disagreement is just wild to me. It's like asking six world-class meteorologists if you need an umbrella today, and one tells you, expect clear skies, while another tells to start building an ark.
That is a perfect analogy because the data reveals exactly that kind of extreme split. Like, let's look at the most fundamental question any worker has right now.
Which is, am I going to lose my job?
Right. How much work is AI actually going to automate? So McKinsey published research suggesting that 57% of U.S. work hours are facing automation risk.
Wow.
Yeah, more than half of everything we do. But then you look at Forrester, another major advisory firm, looking at the exact same landscape, and they place that automation figure at just 6%.
Wait, hold on. 57% versus 6%.
Yeah.
Are they even looking at the same economy?
Yeah.
I mean, how can research from the top advisory firms in the world be this incredibly divergent? It feels like someone's math has to be completely broken.
Well, it's actually not a math error. It really comes down to fundamentally different philosophies about how work happens in the real world. So McKinsey takes a very clinical, technical approach.
Okay. What does that mean?
They look at task-level data using occupational databases. So they break your job down into tiny, isolated activities and ask, is it technically feasible for an AI to do this specific task in a vacuum?
Like in a lab setting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, they count it as automatable. But what that methodology tends to discount are the human barriers, the organizational friction, the regulatory hurdles, the massive economic costs of actually tearing out old software to adopt the new tech.
Oh, I see. So just because a machine can technically do something in a sterile, perfect environment doesn't mean a highly regulated corporation is going to instantly let it do that thing out in the wild.
Precisely. Now, contrast that with BCG's methodology. They focus on competitive dynamics and actual client experiences. They aren't just looking at technical feasibility at all.
Right. They're looking at reality.
Yeah, they're doing scenario modeling based on how organizations historically behave, how humans resist change, and honestly, how slowly technology actually gets adopted. That friction creates a completely different, much lower forecast.
And I guess if they can't even agree on how many jobs are affected, it totally makes sense that they completely disagree on what the future company actually looks like.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's look at that structural clash, because if I'm managing a team right now, this is the stuff that keeps me awake at night.
So let's compare KPMG and Deloitte on this point. KPMG is predicting what they call an hourglass organizational structure. So if you picture a literal hourglass, it's wide at the top, wide at the bottom, and totally pinched in the middle.
Okay.
They believe AI agents will take over the coordination, scheduling, and, routine decision-making that middle managers currently
Oh,
do.
boy.
So you'll end up with a wide base of junior staff, a wide top layer of senior executives, and that middle management layer essentially just disappears.
Which is a terrifying forecast if you are currently, say, a mid-level marketing manager or an operations director.
Mm.
Your entire organizational layer is just deleted.
Right. But then Deloitte comes out with a completely opposite structural model.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they forecast a diamond shape.
Yeah.
In their model, the middle layer actually expands to become the widest part of the company.
Wait, expands. Why?
Their reasoning is that all these new AI agents aren't perfect. I mean, they hallucinate, they lack context, they drift from their original instructions. Therefore, companies are going to need a massive army of humans to orchestrate these agents.
To, like, double-check everything.
Exactly. To quality assure their outputs and handle the complex exceptions when the algorithms inevitably fail. So Deloitte actually sees middle managers evolving into AI workflow coordinators.
So I'm either out of a job entirely, or I'm suddenly the most important person in the building, depending on which consultant my CEO hired. That's reassuring.
Right. What's fascinating here is that these aren't just clever marketing metaphors. They encode entirely different philosophies about the human's role. Like, McKinsey pushes a model they call super agency.
Super agency, like superpowers.
Yeah, think of it like wearing an exoskeleton. You keep your current job title, you keep your current responsibilities, but you are given powerful AI assistants that make you faster and smarter.
Okay. I like the sound of that.
But then Accenture uses the word reinvention, and reinvention assumes your current job title is deleted entirely, and your department is rebuilt from the ground up around the technology. You don't get new tools. The company gets new roles.
Man. So if the forecasts are this divergent, and they are giving completely contradictory advice to the outside world, looking at their public white papers really isn't helping us.
No, it's just confusing.
Right. So I think the only logical next step is to look at their payroll. We need to watch their hands, not their mouths. What are they actually doing internally with their own massive workforces?
And this is where the save you gap is just staggering. When you look at their internal operations between 2023 and 2025, there is one major action that all of the big six firms took in unison.
Oh, they agreed on something.
Through their actions, yes. Despite their differing public philosophies, they all slashed their graduate hiring by 25 to 40%.
Wait, why? Early career hiring, why is that the immediate casualty across the board?
Well, think about the nature of entry-level consulting work. Graduate hires typically do the foundational data aggregation, the basic market research, the preliminary slide formatting, the initial code drafting.
The grunt work.
Exactly. And generative AI is exceptionally good at those specific, well-defined tasks. It's effectively absorbing the entry-level workload, but that creates a massive future pipeline problem.
Oh, of course.
Because if you don't hire juniors today, where do your senior partners come from in 10 years?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because early career hiring is the ultimate leading indicator in professional services. They can adjust a graduate intake class way faster than they can, restructure a floor of senior partners.
Very true.
So they might be telling their clients that the future is uncertain and to take a measured approach, but their own HR departments are actively preparing for a world that simply needs fewer entry-level humans.
And the broader internal restructuring is just as revealing. Take Accenture. Outwardly, they were running campaigns telling clients to put, quote, people first in their AI transformations.
Always a good slogan.
Right. But internally, over 2024, they spent $865 million restructuring, and they eliminated 11,000 roles.
$865 million just to manage the cost of firing people and shifting departments, all while publishing thought leadership about the human element.
Yeah, it really highlights the friction of transition, and McKinsey is a similar story. While promoting that empowering super agency model we talked about, the whole exoskeleton idea, they actually eliminated 5,000 internal roles, while simultaneously deploying 25,000 AI agents to handle their own firm's operations.
Okay, so that's what they're actually doing.
Although BCG seems to be walking their talk slightly more, they advocate for a very specific investment ratio for their clients. They say you should spend 70% of your transformation budget on people and processes and only 20% on the actual technology.
And does that work?
Well, when you look at their internal data, Applying that human-heavy ratio actually correlates with much higher workforce satisfaction and better long-term adoption than the more tech-heavy
Okay,
approaches.
let's follow the logic here for a second.
Hmm.
If these firms are cutting thousands of jobs and deploying tens of thousands of bots to pick up the slack, the underlying assumption has to be that AI is making everyone who is left massively more productive, right? Like we're doing more with less.
That narrative of explosive productivity is everywhere, but the data reveals a pretty harsh disconnect between micro-level task efficiency and macro-level economic reality. Yeah, so PwC put out a report claiming clients were seeing a 4x productivity gain, like a 400% improvement in specific knowledge tasks like software coding or marketing content generation.
Hold up. This defies basic math. If I manage a team of software developers and they are suddenly coding 4 times faster, my company's software output should quadruple.
You would think so?
Right, so my costs plummet or my product launches accelerate. But you're saying the macro level data doesn't reflect that at all.
It doesn't. Goldman Sachs analyzed the actual economic productivity impact of AI through mid-2025, and they concluded that the macroeconomic boost was basically zero.
Zero. How is that possible?
And it gets deeper. The National Bureau of Economic Research backed this up. They did a massive study of 6,000 executives, and they found that 90% of them reported no measurable productivity impact whatsoever from their AI initiatives on their bottom line.
I am genuinely confused. I mean, if the tasks are getting done 400% faster, where did the time go? Where did the money go?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanism driving this is crucial to understand. Yes, AI makes the specific task faster, which lowers the cost of producing a single unit of output.
Like one line of code or one legal brief?
Exactly. But what historically happens in business when the cost of an output drops? Organizations don't just pocket the savings or give people Friday off, they just demand more of the output.
Oh, I see. So AI didn't actually buy us any free time. It just inflated expectations. We aren't working fewer hours. The baseline for a quote-unquote good job just got 10 times higher.
That is exactly the trap. A longitudinal study by the Harvard Business Review tracked knowledge workers over this initial deployment period, and they found that AI actually increased work volume, it increased the daily cognitive load, and it increased working hours.
That is depressing.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a legal firm and AI makes document review 10 times faster, you don't send the lawyers home at 3 p.m. You just conduct 10 times more comprehensive discovery. If you're a marketing team, you don't finish the campaign a week early. You generate 500 personalized variations of an ad instead of 5.
And someone still has to read all 500 variations to make sure the AI didn't, put a competitor's logo in the background or something.
Precisely. Which brings us to a massive structural flaw that Deloitte identified in late 2025. They found that 84% of organizations are just paving the cow path.
Paving the cat path, meaning they are taking winding, inefficient old processes and just cementing them in place.
Yes, they're taking their old, clunky workflows and just bolting AI onto them rather than stepping back and redesigning the workflow itself. Because if you automate a bad process, you just get a faster bad process.
Right, obviously.
So all those micro-level speed gains get entirely eaten up by new coordination costs, the overhead of checking the AI's work, and the sheer complexity of integrating new bots with legacy software.
If 84% of organizations are just paving the cow path and they're forcing higher quotas on the same old processes, I mean, something has to break. And it sounds like what's breaking are the employees. This expert disagreement isn't just an academic debate anymore. It's creating massive career paralysis for you, the listener.
It really leaves the mid-career professional trapped between contradictory signals. Just imagine you are 10 years into your career right now. Do you double down and invest in deepening your current specialized expertise, hoping you remain valuable? Or do you assume KPMG's hourglass is coming, abandon your hard-won specialty, and try to pivot into being a generalist who just coordinates AI workflows?
Like the implicit contract of professional work has just been ripped up. The idea was always, work hard, become an expert in your specific field, deliver value, and you'll get stability and promotion. Now nobody knows what the new contract says, and everyone is just frozen.
And when companies try to force a new contract on their employees, it often backfires spectacularly. Let's look at Accenture's internal policy again. They instituted a mandate requiring AI proficiency to even be considered for a promotion.
I mean, that sounds logical on the surface. If you are a tech consultancy, you want your future leaders to actually know the tech.
On paper, leadership loved it. It drove an 85% completion rate in their internal AI training programs.
Right.
But the reality on the ground created a massive wave of inequity. Think about who actually has the discretionary time to master a constantly changing suite of AI tools outside of normal business hours.
Oh, right. If your promotion depends on whether you have the free time on weekends to experiment with the latest language model interface, that immediately penalizes anyone with heavy caregiving duties at home. It penalizes single parents or workers dealing with accessibility barriers.
Exactly. The playing field was fundamentally tilted. And even for those who do master the tools, the reward isn't always what it seems. So KPMG predicts a 76% pay premium for AI skills in the marketplace.
That's a huge premium.
It is. But for routine knowledge workers, that premium often comes at the cost of their autonomy. We are seeing AI tools that have managerial logic and constraints baked right into their design. The system architects make the decisions about how a process should run, and the software just enforces it.
Wait, let me see if I can picture this. It turns a knowledge worker into an assembly line quality inspector. So the AI generates the whole strategy document or the financial model, and humans just sitting there at the end of the conveyor belt stamping approve or reject on 50 documents an hour. They aren't architects anymore, they're just like proofreaders for a machine.
That's exactly it. And that shift from creator to reviewer creates incredible psychological strain and disengagement. So the AI gets the agency, and the human loses it.
That is a grim picture of the modern desk job. But we promised an evidence-based survival guide at the beginning of this. If we can't predict the future, if the experts are contradicting each other, and if the early mandates are causing burnout and inequity, how do we adapt? What is the actual playbook for uncertainty?
So, the organizations surviving this transition best are relying on transparent communication and acknowledging the unknowns, rather than projecting false certainty.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
Look at what Microsoft did internally through 2024 and 2025. They were rolling out their Copilot tools across their entire workforce. But instead of laying down a stubborn 5-year forecast about how work would change, they established agile 6-month review cycles.
Far.
Yeah, they looked at actual telemetry data and surveyed worker sentiment every 6 months, and they adjusted their productivity expectations based on hard evidence.
They didn't lock themselves into a prediction. They literally treat their own company like a laboratory.
Unilever is another prime example of this intellectual honesty. They wanted to use algorithmic hiring to streamline recruitment, but instead of blindly trusting the vendor's claims that the AI was perfect, they treated it as an active experiment. They deliberately tested the algorithms for bias against different applicant groups. And when they found flaws, when the data showed the AI was actually disadvantaging certain candidates, they didn't bury the report.
Right.
They transparently published those results internally and reverted back to a human-AI hybrid process to ensure fairness.
That is a huge cultural shift. A massive corporation admitting a new tech tool failed a practical test and actively choosing to go back to the human element to fix the process. What about the financial side? How are companies safely investing in this without betting the farm on the wrong horse?
Through staged investment and rigorous, almost paranoid governance, JPMorgan Chase rolled out AI for their software development teams, but they didn't force a mandate on everyone on day one. They used voluntary early adopters.
Keeping it low pressure.
Yeah, and they tracked those developers against control groups who weren't using the AI, and they ran parallel traditional environments. By doing this, they managed to achieve verified 20 to 30% efficiency gains without breaking any of their critical legacy systems.
And in fields like healthcare, the stakes are literally life and death. You can't just run parallel environments when a patient's diagnosis is on the line.
No, you can't. And the Cleveland Clinic is the gold standard for navigating that exact risk. They absolutely refused to accept vendor claims about diagnostic AI capabilities at face value. They forced the software vendors to validate the AI against the clinic's own localized patient population before it could be used.
Just huge.
And more importantly, they explicitly rejected tools that, while technically accurate, added cognitive overhead for the doctors.
What do you mean by cognitive overhead?
Well, if an AI flagged 50 minor potential issues that a doctor had to manually click through and dismiss, it made the appointment take longer and exhausted the physician. The clinic prioritized human workflow integration over pure technological capability.
And you mentioned governance. I know it sounds like dry corporate speak, but in this context, it's actually the shield that protects the company, right?
It is the only thing keeping these systems from degrading. MasterCard and the UK National Health Service built governance frameworks that treat AI almost like pharmaceutical regulation. They put in place strict, continuous monitoring to combat model drift.
Model drift.
Model drift is what happens when an AI system is trained on historical data, but then the real world changes. Slowly, over months, the AI's predictions become less and less accurate. They recognize that an algorithmic error in credit card fraud detection or clinical triage isn't just an IT ticket.
Right, it's a disaster.
Yeah, it requires a human accountability structure to catch the drift before it harms a customer.
And what about training the workforce? We talked earlier about how Accenture's rigid off-hours mandate caused massive inequity. Is there a better way to upskill a company?
BCG proved there is a much healthier approach. They implemented a sandbox model. Instead of demanding rigid classroom compliance and tying it to promotions, they focused on experiential learning.
A sandbox, like just playing around.
Exactly. They gave their staff secure access to the tools, encouraged low-stakes experimentation during normal working hours, and built communities where employees could share what prompts worked best for them. It's about ongoing organizational learning, not just passing a one-time test.
That makes so much more sense.
And Siemens did something similar with their 300,000-person industrial workforce. They didn't assume AI was just a tool for desk-bound email writers. They actively trained production engineers and factory maintenance technicians to augment their physical, tactile work with predictive algorithms.
This raises the biggest question of the whole deep dive, honestly. If you are a leader and you literally cannot predict whether your company will look like KPMG's hourglass or Deloitte's diamond in 3 years, how do you structure your workforce today?
You have to build for radical flexibility. You look at IBM's playbook from their massive transition to cloud computing a decade ago. They survived that period of structural uncertainty by using highly flexible, project-based workforce strategies.
So not just static departments.
Right. They broke down rigid departmental hierarchies so talent could swarm to wherever the new technology was working best. Or you look at EY today. They are utilizing a portfolio approach to talent. They maintain a mix of permanent core staff, specialized temporary contractors, and strategic alliance partners.
Which gives them levers to pull.
Exactly. If the AI landscape shifts overnight, they have the operational levers to adjust their workforce without having to mass fire 10,000 permanent employees.
So what does this all mean for the person listening right now? We've explored the massive fundamental disagreements between the top advisory firms. We've exposed the hypocrisy of the say-do gap where they cut graduate jobs while preaching a people-first approach. We've unpacked the productivity illusion where faster tasks just lead to higher quotas. And we've looked at the playbook for survival. It really seems like the core lesson from 18 months of real-world AI deployment is a commitment to disciplined agnosticism. You simply cannot bet your career or your company's future on KPMG's hourglass or Deloitte's diamond.
You really can't. The forecasts are built on shifting sand.
Your own internal data, your commitment to building flexible human capabilities without burning out your staff, and incredibly transparent communication, those are your best compasses in this fog. Don't trust the expert forecast. Trust your own 6-month review cycle.
And that leads to one final thought for you to mull over as you head back to your inbox. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about AI replacing specific tasks and reshaping middle management. But if AI continues its current trajectory, it is going to completely democratize access to high-level specialized expertise.
Yeah.
Generating a complex strategy or a dense line of code will be cheap, instant, and available to absolutely everyone. So as we look toward the workplace of 2030, the most valuable skill you can possess won't be what you know.
Because the machine will know it too. The true differentiator is going to be the human courage to decide what to do when the algorithms, just like those 6 world-class meteorologists, fundamentally disagree.